Unit 5, Right Triangles, Preview Video 5.3, Part 1. SOH CAH TOA. Sit tall, close your eyes. Through your nose, inhale. Taking a look at this page, I expect you to get a date, time, and location that you watch this, as well as a parent sign-off that you actually did the work. Taking a look here, what have we learned so far? We have learned if you have two sides, you need a third side, Pythagorean theorem. We've learned if you have a 45-45-90 and a 30-60-90 and you have one side of a triangle, you can use those patterns to get the other sides. But that's only 30-60-90. Here's the question we're asking ourselves today. What if the angles involved are not special right triangles and you still only have one side? The answer to this is what we call trigonometric ratios. And the name of those ratios are sine, cosine, and tangent. But before to use those ratios, you must first learn how to label a triangle with these terms: hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. We're going to be using what's called the theta symbol to represent angles. Theta is going to represent angles. So, labeling. If we're working with this theta right here, this angle, go across, that would be considered your opposite side. The side next to the angle would be adjacent. And of course, the right angle always points to the hypo. Warning. When the theta changes, the label can change. So the hypo never changes. You find the right angle, that's your hypo. If this is the angle you're working with, your theta, go across, that would be your opposite. And then the side or leg next to it is adjacent. Opposite and adjacent are always going to be the legs. Ready? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. I'd like you to label the opposite, adjacent, and hypo in this triangle. You have 10 seconds. Go. Let's see how you did. I really hope you tried that on your own. There's your angle theta, which means opposite. Your x would be opposite. This 15 would be the adjacent side because it's a leg next to the angle. And the hypo is always your hypo, which is across from the right angle. Ready? I'd like you to pause the video and label these with x and y. Identify them as the hypo, the hypotenuse, and the adjacent side. Pause the video. Welcome back. Take a look here. If this is your theta, then your opposite is the y. Your adjacent, meaning next to, is the x. And your hypo across from the right angle is the 24. Looking here, if your theta is the 21, the opposite is the 8, the adjacent is the x, and your hypo across from the right angle is the y. So, the ratio, remember a ratio of two sides of a right triangle in reference to a certain angle. These are called trigonometric ratios. Trigonometric ratios. So the first one, let's label here. There's your angle. We're going to label this our opposite. That's your hypo. This would be adjacent. So we're going to find three particular ratios. In this case, our opposite is 3. Our hypo is 5. And 3/5 of $1. 3/5, if you do 100 divided by 5, that's 20 times 3. This is 0.666. So that's one certain 000. Opposite over hypo is a ratio, and the name of that ratio is sine. Adjacent over hypo. In this case, our adjacent is going to be 4. And our hypo is 5. 4/5 of $1 is 80 cents. Adjacent over hypo, that has a name. That's called the cosine ratio. Opposite, in this case, would be 3 over adjacent. In this case, would be 4. 3/4 of $1 is 75 cents. In this case, in this triangle, that's called the tangent ratio. So these three ratios have names. Sine, opposite over hypo. Copy that acronym down. Cosine, adjacent over hypo. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. These are called trigonometric ratios. Commonly known as an acronym called SOH CAH TOA. Sine of a theta, which means angle, equals opposite over hypo. Cosine theta equals adjacent over hypo. Tangent theta equals opposite over adjacent. Right now this means nothing to you. It will in approximately 5 minutes. The acronym we use for that is SOH CAH TOA. The way you're going to remember it is so, like you're someone who just had a bright idea. So, CAH, like a crow. CAH, CAH. Then imagine someone stepping on your toe and you're in pain. TOA! So it goes like this to help you remember. So, CAH TOA! Now that you're laughing hysterically, I'd like you to try it again. So, CAH TOA! Now, what on earth does this mean? To find trigonometric ratios, we always go to the 4th decimal place. So, for example, if I ask for the cosine of angle Z, right now my theta would be Z. I come over here, I sweep it. And that would make this right here the opposite side. This would be the adjacent side. And of course, here's our hypo. Cosine is CAH. So it's going to be 20 over 29. Because that's adjacent over hypo. So you come here to your calculator to find that ratio, and it's 20 divided by 29, and you take it to the 4th decimal place, 0.6897, 6897. Ready? I'd like you to find this trigonometric ratio, tangent of A. Pause the video. Welcome back. So A, if that's A, your opposite is 8, your adjacent is 15, and your hypo is 17. Tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent, TOA. So taking a look right here, our opposite is 8, Our adjacent is 15. You get your decimal, take it to the 4th decimal place. Now, what's really important to understand, you're like, what are these random decimals? There is a chart that's associated with triangles and the ratio of these sides, and all these decimals are stored in your calculator. We did this from the last class. We found the sine of 30, the cosine of 30, and the tangent of 30 using 30, 60, 90, and we got these particular decimals. These particular decimals are all stored on this giant chart. This is in your reference booklet. If you take a very close look here at 30 degrees, you will see that the sine of 30 degrees is 0.5, the cosine of 30 degrees is 0.86, and the tangent of 30 degrees is 0.577. This was all derived from the previous lesson. So literally over the past couple of centuries, the various ratios associated with various angles have been calculated and stored on these giant charts. Good news for you is that these giant charts are stored in your calculators now, so you don't have to look it up on paper. I'm going to show you how to use it. Ready? We are going to do three problems together, and you are going to become experts in the next 8 minutes. Follow along with me exactly. Please have your right triangle toolbox flipped over so that you see this side, SOH CAH TOA side. Step 1, we label. So if we're dealing with 24, we go like this. We label our opposite, our adjacent, and hypo. That's important you do that accurately. And you ask yourself what you have and what you need. In this case, we have the hypo. And we need the opposite. So I have, it says HOOH combo. So you look over here and you ask yourself, what goes with OH? Any combination of OH. And the answer is sine. So you're going to take exactly this ratio and copy it here. Make sure you copy it exactly as you see it. Sine of theta over 1 equals opposite over hypo. Now we're going to circle, plug, chug. Watch very carefully. Sine of theta. The theta is the angle, so we come over here, we circle 24, and we plug it in. So that's going to be sine of 24 degrees. Put parentheses around this whole thing. Over 1 equals opposite, circle, circle, plug it in. Circle hypo, circle 16. Plug it in. I'm going to pause and let you catch up. Now, we're going to solve for x here. We have a regular proportion. So we cross multiply.
Rockstar.
Thank you. And we get sine of 24, keep parentheses around that, around times 16 equals our x. Super important. You never, ever touch a calculator until your x is completely isolated. So our x is going to equal sine 24 times 16. Now, we're going to show you how to do that on your calculator. So go into your calculators. For the TI-84, you first have to make sure it's in degree mode. So you hit Mode, Mode, down, down, over. So degrees is flashing, Enter, Clear. Your smaller calculators are going to automatically be in degree mode. So right here, take a look. We're doing sine of 24 times 16. Watch carefully. Sine 24, close the parentheses. Hit the enter sign. Times 16. Enter sign. Smaller calculator. Watch carefully. Sine 24, close the parentheses, equals times 16 equals. For this calculator, you go backwards. You have to start with the 24. So you go 24 sine times 16. Notice you're getting the answer for all three of them. And you take it to the second decimal, which is going to be 6.51. So in this case, our side length is 6.51. And then you just ask yourself, is your answer logical? You take a look here, and we know our answer can't be bigger than 16 because 16 is the hypo, so 6.51 makes sense. We're going to do two more together. Relax, you're going to be good at this, I promise. Step number 1. Sweep the angle you're working with, your theta. Label opposite, adjacent, and your hypo. Have and need. We have the hypo, and we need the adjacent. So notice we have an HA-AH combo. It doesn't matter the order there. What does matter is you go back to here, this chart, and we see that anything goes with A and H is going to be that cosine. So you write that equation exactly as you see it, which is cosine theta over 1. And you always put adjacent, always on top, hypo, always on bottom. Circle, plug, chug. So we circle, plug, chug. Circle, theta, theta. We get cosine 58 degrees. Put parentheses around that whole entity. This is not 58 degrees. It's cosine of 58. So that's a single entity. Equals adjacent, which is x, over a hypo, which is 11. Cross multiply. Next line. Cosine 58 degrees times 11 is going to equal x. Again, you never touch a calculator until your variable is by itself. So we're going to do cosine 58 degrees times 11. So taking a look here on your calculators, I'll show you how to do that on both calculators. This calculator and this one functions exactly the same. So I'm going to bring this one in here. And we are doing cosine 58 times 11. On this calculator, cosine 58, close the parentheses up, times 11, enter. Over here, you go backwards, 58 cosine times 11. You're going to get the same answer. You're going to round to the second decimal place, 5.83. So we go here, and our x is 5.83. We look up here and say, does that make sense? 5.83. Well, the hypo is 11, so we can't be greater than 11. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we're going to do one more together. Just one more, and you're going to be fine. Ready? This one. from that theta, we're going to label our opposite, our adjacent, and our hypo. So here we have, in this case, the opposite. We have the opposite. We want the adjacent. So we ask ourselves, what goes with OA or AO? It doesn't matter the order there. What does matter is what is that letter combo. If you go back here, what goes with OA is tangent, and you write it exactly like this. Tangent of theta over 1 equals, opposite always goes on top regardless, over adjacent. So you do circle, plug, chug, and you end up with tangent of 47 equals 20 over x. Do not touch a calculator until x is by itself. We cross multiply. Watch carefully. Keep parentheses around that entire thing. It's tan 47 times x equals 20. Look, friends, x is not yet by itself. Do not touch a calculator. Just like a number, we're going to divide tan of 47 out completely. Let me show you. Tan of 47, that's a single entity. Keep parentheses around that. Ready? So now your x is by itself. X equals 20 divided by the tan of 47. Once again, I'll show you how to do this on your calculators. Watch carefully. 20 divided by tan of 47. Now that your x is by itself, watch carefully. 20 divided by the tan of 47. On this calculator, you go like this. 20 divided by, there's a little division sign, tan 47, make sure you close that parentheses up so it looks exactly like this. Enter. This one is a little bit backwards. Watch carefully. 20 divided by 47 tan, enter. You're going to get the exact same thing. 18.65. If you come up here, 18.65. And here's kind of a way to check, just mentally. If that's 47, we know that this angle here has to be 43, right? So smaller angle, shorter side, 18.65, larger angle, 47, longer side, 20. Do you see how the angles and the sides correspond to each other? Super important. Find yourself a hostage for 1 minute, a hostage audience, a parent, a sibling, even a dog, your pet, and take the time to explain this, at least one of these 3 problems to another human being if at all possible.